Pages taught me a lesson, which is your dream wants to come true, but you cannot stop. You gotta keep going out, even when it seems totally dead. Because at that exact moment is when, like, it can happen.
Come on, feel the noise. Girls, rock your boys. We'll get wild, wild, wild. Come on, feel the noise. Girls, rock your boys.
My name is Matthew Weaver, and I am the producer of Rock of Ages.
I am Hillary Weaver, and I'm one of the original producers of Rock of Ages.
I'm Carl Levin. I'm one of the producers of Rock of Ages.
I'm Janet Billig, and I'm an original producer of Rock of Ages.
I am Scott Prizan. I am one of the producers of Rock of Ages.
I'm Kristen Hinge, and I'm the director of Rock of Ages.
I'm Chris Dorenzo. I wrote the book for Rock of Ages.
You know, I remember Chris saying once, you come to LA and you go after a dream and you just get knocked down and knocked down and knocked down and knocked down again. But like you keep believing that something's like pulling you forward. And in a way, it was like our story.
We did the King, the Vanguard, Renmar Studios, Vegas, shows dead, everyone depressed.
I felt like, oh, this is a Broadway show immediately. And I said that to Kristen, and Kristen was like, yeah, I'm with you. And like, so we always kind of would say this is a Broadway show, and everyone would laugh.
I loved the show so much that I got back on my feet pretty quickly. From May 2007, fall of 2007, winter, I went to New York. I met Scott Prizan, who had raised money for a bunch of Broadway shows. Like, he had been doing Legally Blonde. And he took me to New York and said, all right, let's go raise money.
Take some money and make this city. No! Make this city a rock and roll. We're tired of your fire. We make this city a rock and roll.
You know, Matt would just constantly be talking about Rock of Ages, and eventually what happened was we ended up saying, okay, fine, let's pay for some casting sessions. So we start casting. Okay, fine, so you're spending a little bit of money, we're developing, it's development money. We're spending some money. Wow, okay, we got a real cast. Constantine Maroulis is available. Okay, wow, okay. Now we're like, all right, we're going. You know, so we technically greenlit Rock of Ages, okay? Not really having the money or knowing exactly what was gonna happen.
I'd been an investor in some Broadway shows, but Rock of Ages was my first actual physical production. So it was great, you know, Matt and I would set up the chairs in the beginning, we would tear tickets, we were involved in all the casting. So it was really, that was my education, was doing it off Broadway in Los Angeles.
I remember specifically being at a reading where the cast is reading the entire script out loud for the first time, right? Everyone's there. And I'm sitting there, and Matt and I are catching eyes during this because we both knew we didn't have the financing to pay for the rest of this production.
Now, remember, at this point, we were the Hudson Hawk of musicals. Like, we weren't cool.
Sure enough, the reading ends. You get an email from the general manager that basically says, if you don't deposit $500,000 in the bank by Friday, I am shutting you down. I believe it was a Tuesday. So we have 3 days to find $500,000 or this whole thing doesn't happen. And I took that email and sent it to one of our investors who graciously he believed in the project, and he walked in a $500,000 check on that Friday. And Rock of Ages, from that point on, happened.
And I think it was only a couple days later that Matt Weaver called and said, okay, I think we may have another life.
How can I convince you what you see is real? Who am I to blame you for doubting what you feel?
Everyone, I think, was very nervous about that because we were told by so many people that New York audiences wouldn't like it. It's a very LA-centric show.
Off-Broadway, October 2008. I would get everybody together. All right, guys, Bridge and Tunnel show. I'm from New Jersey. All the producers are from Long Island. From Paramus and Merrick. That's all we need to focus on. Fuck everybody else. And I was wrong again because we actually did need everybody else.
We were the most expensive off-Broadway show in history. If we sold every ticket at full price to every show, we basically broke even, which is, it was a really, from a business side, it wasn't the greatest decision, I guess, to greenlight it.
We opened off Broadway. Audiences seemed to really like it.
Got a good review from the New York Times, not great. Chugging along, I started inviting a lot of the movie people I knew, because that was my main business.
I knew something was up with my producers. I didn't know what was up, but one night I'm in the back of the theater with Matt Weaver and Scott Pryson, and they're like laughing. And they're like, they have this like little chuckle, this like celebratory thing is happening, and I'm like, what's up?
I always talk about the entourage moment. I didn't know that those things really happened, but I came from a finance background. I wasn't in Hollywood really.
We're chugging along, movie people come, all of a sudden bidding war on the movie rights.
And there was a bigger picture here all of a sudden. Oh my God, the movie rights are gonna sell. And what happened was the movie rights sold very, very quickly when we opened off Broadway.
So that was like a boost of confidence. So although we're losing money off Broadway, we're like, wow, we just sold the movie rights for a lot. There's something here.
In my head, I was like, are we gonna get tour the show or taking it to Germany? Like something's up. And they're like, we can't tell you yet.
I think producers inherently have to be less risk averse and maybe a little bit crazy, and they have to believe in their ideas because you are ahead of the curve. You're basically telling the world, you're gonna like this. If you're gonna sell an idea to someone, you really have to believe it. I don't think I could produce a show that I didn't love 110%.
One thing we knew, we were going to lose money hand over fist off Broadway because we just didn't have the time and the money to keep the word of mouth going, because on Broadway you have usually $100,000 a week to promote your show. We had 15, so we didn't have even the word of mouth. This takes a long time because you're competing 5 blocks away with all these amazing shows. So we thought it was really just go big or go home. So we thought, you know what, January's coming up, which is death. We closed the show because we were losing money. And we announced Broadway because that was our intent.
As soon as that happened and that got announced, the Broadway theaters started calling.
I think maybe it was a week later they called me, and it was right before New Year's. It was like it was right after Christmas. And they said, we're taking the show to Broadway. Heart-fluttering, crazy scene stars. Yes, all of that.
And then we had to go raise $5 million in January, February, March. So we had 4 months to raise $5 million. We had this famous meeting with Jimmy Nederlander Sr., who's the Godfather, like the nice Godfather on Broadway.
You have to go in to the theater owner and say, hello, Mr. Theater Owner, we have $5 million.
And we got ushered into his office. He's late 80s. And somebody who works with him, he's like, tell him about the show, boys. And I'm just going into pitch mode. And he's just like, you have the money? And I was like, yes, sir. He goes, all right, let's do it. And that was it. And then we were out. And then it was like, all right, on. We just told Jimmy Nederlander Sr. we have the money.
So we represented that we had it. Now, in our minds, we really did have it because we knew we would get it, but we didn't actually have it sitting in the bank at the time that we told Mr. Nederlander that we had the money.
And again, it was back on the road show, flying around the country, raising money.
Purely from the passion of the fact that we knew we had a musical that made audiences crazy. And that's it. So if you have something that once people see it and hear about it, they're gonna go nuts, we knew people would buy tickets.
So many crazy situations. Half of our investors are Orthodox. We love them, thank God. We're late March and we're short, Our GM, Richard Frankel, at that point would call up and be like, guys, I had no money for payroll, I'm shutting you down, we're done. And Scott Pryson was like, no, we got it. And it was hairy. And Happy Walters, my old buddy, my, mentor, came to the show and loved it and wound up bringing Tucker and Ryan. And amazing. These guys came in with a huge investment at the 11th hour. And really, Relativity was like the reason, they were like the Mariano Rivera of investing. They were came in at the 9th inning, closed it, we opened.
It was like manifestation of dream time. my parents came in, my best friends came in, like, you know, you have to do the red carpet and the whole thing and buy a dress and, you know, like, it's opening night on Broadway, you know, it's like, I have so many pictures, and I know that I'll always like remember that night is like the night my first show opened on Broadway. Now, what makes it even more interesting is that's the day that we got the heads up on the New York Times review. And I didn't know anything, but there I am, and I'm with Kelly, we're all dressed up, we're watching the show, intermission. Hillary Weaver goes, girls, come on, and takes us into the stage manager office, and she goes, we got the New York Times review. And we're like, what? And she's like, it's a rave. And literally, just like tears, like.
So of course I was incredibly excited, and that was wonderful, but like I think anyone that makes something that goes Broadway, it's like, there's a part that's like, oh my God, this is the most amazing news ever, but then there is a part of you, the part that believes in what you do, that's like, damn straight. Like, this is where it's supposed to go. It has found its appropriate home. Because it's big, and it's theatrical, and it's, to me, it had the possibility to do everything all of the shows that I saw when I was young in New York. It would give me that same experience, and I could leave the theater feeling that way about a show like this. So, you know, it was a mixture. I mean, it was obviously a dream come true. It was, you know, killer.
You are a new musical that no one really knows about. In our world, we thought everyone knew about it. No one knows about it. You open, and it's all, you have an advance, which our advance was probably the lowest advance a Broadway show could have. I believe we were a little over $500,000 when we opened. Like, we never really believed that, oh my God, like, we're still there. So it's always been a battle, and it's always been a fight. And if we didn't leave the Brooks Atkinson, we would have been closed.
Never, we built this city. We built this city on.
I'm Jeffrey Tick. I'm the co-owner with Marty Markinson of the Helen Hayes Theater on Broadway, actually 44th Street. Rock of Ages was in New York at New World Stages off Broadway. It moved to the Brooks Atkinson Theater. I had seen it at the Brooks Atkinson Theater and I loved it. A period of time went by, we got a phone call. Somebody said, would you be interested in housing Rock of Ages? They might be contemplating moving. And I said, yes, definitely. Who do we talk to? What do we do? Is this really going to come to fruition? Why? What's going on?
If you look back at the numbers on Rock of Ages, we were not making money early on. I mean, it took a while for word of mouth to kick in, and the show was definitely not turning a profit right away. It was small, and then gradually increased.
We had something that not a lot of people had. You know, we had a great piece of material, which is because of Kristen Renzo and Kristen Hange, and obviously Kelly Devine and Ethan and Dave and everybody. But we had really, not a lot of people have that, right? You have something, some people like it, some people don't. We had something that was pretty much universally loved if you saw it.
I went to see it again, took my entire family, which was wife, 3 kids, and actually my mom. Everybody absolutely loved it, and I said, who do we talk to? Let's try and make this happen. At the Helen Hayes Theater, we don't have a pit in front, so there's no musicals where you have an orchestration or orchestra in front.
Thank you very much!
So the musicians must be on stage. They also, because of the size, the Helen Hayes Theater is approximately 600 seats, where the Brooks Atkinson, don't quote me, is probably in the neighborhood of 1,000. They needed to probably scale it down, just from an economic standpoint, so that it can work in our theater. We knew it was going to work from a creative standpoint because the audience is much closer to the stage. You feel it. That part was a no-brainer. It was more of the economics to make sure that it can run and run for a long time.
I don't think we ever really knew until the Helen Hayes and this run that we've been having at the Helen Hayes, and as we climb the ladder of the longest running musicals of all time.
We want people to have a good time. So before the show, we have a concession in the front of house. It's made out to look like the Bourbon Room, which is where Rock of Ages takes place on stage. Various different alcohols are being served. We have some servers, there are jello shots, there are reference to wine coolers, which haven't been probably sold since the 80s. And the idea is to try and extend the feeling of the show to the overall experience within the theater.
You can drink in every Broadway theater now. We were the first show to bring that in. I mean, really, if you talk to the people who sell at Nederlander or at Schubert, you can bring drinks now to your seat in a special cup. I really feel like we totally turned that. Look, the whole show takes place basically at the Bourbon Room. You're in a bar, so let's have the festive atmosphere. I really believe, them developing the system of when waiters and waitresses would go up and down the aisles, making it feel like you're in a bar. Hopefully people don't get too out of control, but it's been really good.
I've been involved in the Helen Hayes Theater for 30 years, and this is without a doubt my favorite show that we've ever had. The people involved, the producers are friends, the cast are friends. It's one happy family.
Come on, feel the door. Say it, girls.
My name is Adam Danheiser, and I played Dennis Dupree in Rock of Ages. He's the owner of the bar where the action unfolds.
I am Paul Schaeffler. I play the businessman Hertz in the show. I come in and try to tear it all down. There was just this fearlessness, I thought, among people when we were doing it off Broadway that was just amazing to me. And it sort of gave everybody permission to just go, okay, that's where we're going, okay.
You had young, ambitious, hopeful producers, young, ambitious, hopeful creatives, and young, ambitious, hopeful cast, all working towards something together without the expectation hanging over that like a lot of Broadway shows have.
He's talking about is that we flying in under the radar. A lot of shows are kind of Broadway, like there's a lot of attention on them and there's more pressure. But if you come in, and nobody knows who the hell you are, you have the advantage of not having that pressure, but at the same time, getting attention is a whole other thing.
You make everything so clean.
Sometimes you're with them and the audience loves it because it's live and everyone wants the live experience. It's a great wave to ride, this energy that's unlike any other Broadway show that you're gonna, Broadway audience. It's this crazy energy and there's a rush to it.
It was this frenzy. You had the audiences kind of worked into a lather. And I'd never seen anything like it before. I knew that the show would be a success.
There are wonderful moments that come out of someone going like, "God, Freebird!" and there are terrible moments that come out of someone saying, "I can see your dick." You can cut that or whatever you need to do. It's like so rewarding to be in the middle of some sort of comic moment and look out and people literally are wiping tears away or laughing or grabbing each other or whatever, and you're like, oh, we're doing that to them, and it's a great feeling.
It's amazing because every time an audience came, they left happy, whether they were 8 years old or 88.
It's paradoxical because when you're in it, I've never seen the show. I've seen little bits and pieces of it, but I've never had the opportunity to sit out and watch it. And I forget, you get this chunk of what you're doing on stage, but you don't get the whole thing. So when you get that response from these people, it's like, oh wow, okay, something must be magical that's happening up here. It's a great feeling.
I'm Joel Hoekstra. I play guitar in the Broadway production of Rock of Ages and also played it off-Broadway. I also play guitar for the band Night Ranger and for Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Kind of started subbing for a friend of mine doing like pit stuff, which I thought would be just good for my playing to kind of keep me busy when the band wasn't on tour. And I ended up subbing on a show called Tarzan, and I met our current music supervisor on that show. He was the keyboard player on that show. So when it came time to look for a guitar player for Rock of Ages, he happened to think, hey man, I remember this dude being down there with long hair, working on his rock licks, and he looked me up and said, man, he's a Night Ranger and everything, this is a perfect fit.
My name is Joey Calveri, and I play the role of Stacy Jacks on Rock of Ages on Broadway. I first joined the company for the first national tour when it first went out on tour. At that time, I was playing Joey Primo. And, I toured the U.S. with that for about 6 months. I left the tour to do another show on Broadway, which didn't last very long. So luckily, Rock of Ages was so fantastic, they brought me right back over here to the Helen Hayes, and I've been here doing that role for a while, and then later on I got bumped up to Stacy Jacks.
I started when it came to off-Broadway, when it came to New York. So I wasn't part of the very, very beginning, but I definitely feel like I've seen this thing change and evolve like a ton since it's been here. And I figure with Off-Broadway, I think we're somewhere around, 1,800 performances or something at this point in time. So, I mean, it's, I've definitely done a lot of the legwork on it, I feel like. It's a great show. And it's totally underrated and still is always the underdog, and that's the beautiful thing about it. We love that, and I think the show plays really well that way. Where no one sees us coming, man. They come in and they sit down and they go, what is this? You can see the set already. It's just this, little intimate theater, and then we come out and we just kick them in the teeth and they go away having the best time they've ever had. I'd like to just keep on rolling, man. I can't imagine doing anything else on Broadway that I enjoy this much, not even close. I can't imagine, having some moment where I get to play the music I enjoy on stage and, be playing the music of a band that I'm in on stage. And it's too much fun.
It's all the same.
I covered at that time so many different characters in the show, that's kind of you kind of become like an asset to the company when you do something like that. So you don't really get your hopes up about ever getting bumped up because they're like, well, if we bump them up, then we lose our understudy for this and this and this and this and this. So when I actually found out, I was just ecstatic. It's my first Broadway lead. It's like the most wonderful thing. Rock of Ages has been like a huge, helpful family to a lot of people in their career. The cast, number one, it's like, it's so easy to get stuck in shows without just cool people, and this is just, it's always had such an amazing family turnover. No matter how many different actors have come through the show, the cast have always had this really cool, comedic, raw nature to themselves, and it's always kept it so cool to be working with everybody in the show. The music, even when you're tired, you get ready to walk out on stage and you're just like, oh man, I'm so tired, man. I don't know if I could do it again today. And all of a sudden you hear that. Even when you think you have no energy left, you're like, oh my gosh, I have a lot more than I thought I had. Yeah.
For a lot of us, it's been just sort of jaw-dropping that the thing's become as big as it's become. I didn't ever envision that for a second. I just didn't. I don't think any of us felt like that, although the creatives sort of felt that way. They sort of, I had this conversation with Kristen a couple of times, which is that this show feels like it had this sort of little star hanging over it. Everything kind of lined up for this show all the time.
Just a small town girl living in a lonely world.
I think our secret weapon was what we didn't know was good. We were insanely passionate and driven and couldn't be stopped. We were a tight, close group. We were married, we worked together. We were very tight. We weren't all people that got thrown together and, well, let's try. We were like all really close friends.
The zeitgeist around Don't Stop Believing that kind of came up along with the show's success. You couldn't reinvent that. That's a cultural zeitgeist that you just watch happen and you buckle up and you hold on.
It'll just always, it's funny, I don't get sick of the song. It's such an amazing, beautiful, positive song, and I think we'll forever be linked. The song and the show are synonymous. I think it's a different show without that song. And and we have a great relationship with Journey. We have a great relationship with all of our bands. But yeah, Don't Stop Believin' is like, if it came on right now, I would listen to the whole thing.
Don't Stop Believin', to our Rock of Ages cabal, was literally, it was our mantra. It was what we thought about, whether it was consciously or subconsciously, during every step of the journey, getting the show to not only Broadway, but now, sailing the 7 seas and Tokyo and Seoul and all these amazing places. It was all about Don't Stop Believin'.
It's so many no's, and so many no's here, but then to get to New York, even more no's and bigger no's, ad agencies that didn't want to work with us because they thought we were, or publicity firms or whoever. It was like a constant, no, okay, well, we'll knock on this door. Oh, well, we always used to say if they won't let us in the front door, we'll come through the chimney. If we get blocked in the chimney, we'll come through the basement, whatever. We just, but I think that you can't do that unless you fully 100% believe in something.
Never give up, ever. And we are literally the example of that.
Imagine if we wouldn't have got the rights to Don't Stop Believin'.
Yeah!